25F, have been long distance with my boyfriend, 25M, for 3 months because he was temporarily sent away on a work project. It turns out, he misled me when he said temporarily and actually won't be coming back. Hey everyone, I need to share something that's been consuming me lately, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it all. Maybe telling you guys will help me process, or maybe someone out there has gone through something similar. It all started about 7 months ago. I met Lawrence, and things clicked almost instantly. He was charming, funny, smart, everything you'd want, right? We had this incredible connection, and those first 4 months were amazing. We spent so much time together, exploring the city, trying new restaurants, having those deep late-night talks where you feel like you've known each other forever. He worked as a project manager, really ambitious, which I admired. Then, about 4 months into our relationship, he dropped the news his company was sending him across the country for a work project. It was a big deal for him, managing a new development. My heart sank. Not because I wasn't happy for his career, but because of the distance. I'd been down the long-distance road before, more than once actually, and let's just say it never ended well for me. It's just not something I thrive in. I need that physical presence, the day-to-day connection. So, I was honest with him from the start. I told him how happy I was for his opportunity, but that I really couldn't do a long-distance relationship indefinitely. I explained my past experiences and how I knew myself well enough to understand it wasn't sustainable for me. Lawrence listened, held my hands, and looked me straight in the eyes. But it's only 3 months, he insisted. He painted this picture of a temporary assignment, just needing to be there for the initial launch phase, getting things up and running, and then bam, he'd be back home before we knew it. 3 months. Okay, 3 months felt different. It wasn't forever. It had a clear end date. It felt manageable, like a challenge we could overcome knowing there was a finish line in sight. We talked about it for hours, dissecting every angle. He reassured me repeatedly, just 90 days to kickstart the project, and then his part would be done, and he'd be transferred back. He was so convincing, so earnest. He emphasized how much he valued what we had and how he wouldn't let this temporary separation derail us. Against my better judgment, based purely on the promise of that 3-month deadline, I agreed. I decided to trust him, to trust us. And I have to give him credit, for those 3 months, he was probably the most dedicated long-distance boyfriend anyone could ask for. The effort was immense. We had scheduled video calls every single night, no matter how tired he was after work. He sent flowers randomly, little care packages with inside jokes, handwritten letters that made my heart ache in the best way. He never missed a beat, always asking about my day, remembering tiny details I'd mentioned. The distance was still hard, don't get me wrong. There were nights I felt lonely, moments I desperately wished he was right there beside me. But knowing it was temporary, knowing we were counting down the days, made it bearable. It felt like we were in this together, tackling this short-term hurdle. And the biggest thing? He flew back to visit me once a month. Like clockwork. Huge surprise visits the first 2 times, then planned for the third. Those weekends were intense, trying to pack months of missed moments into 48 hours. They were passionate, fun, and always ended with a tearful goodbye at the airport, but buoyed by the thought that the final goodbye to the distance was getting closer. He really sold the narrative, making those visits feel like previews of his permanent return. We even started tentatively planning things for after the 3 months, trips we wanted to take, how we'd celebrate him being back for good. The 3-month mark approached, and I was practically vibrating with excitement. The countdown was almost over. He was finally coming home. I started planning his return, wanting to make it special. I booked a beautiful hotel room at a nearby beach town for the upcoming weekend, secured reservations at that fancy restaurant we'd always talked about trying. It was going to be perfect, a celebration of us conquering the distance, of him being back where he belonged, with me. I was texting my friends, telling them how relieved I was that the LDR phase was over, how proud I was of us for making it work. Then, a few days before he was due to come home, we were on a video call. He seemed a bit off. Quieter than usual, a little evasive. I asked if everything was okay, if he was stressed about wrapping things up at work. He took a deep breath, and the look on his face instantly turned my stomach to ice. "Babe," he started, and I just knew something was wrong. "About coming back, there's been a change of plans." My mind raced. Did they extend it by a week? A month? Annoying, but manageable. But then he said it. It turns out, the position, it's permanent. They offered me the lead role for the whole development. It's a massive promotion. Permanent. The word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. It felt like the floor dropped out from under me. 3 months. That was the deal. That was the only reason I agreed. He saw the color drain from my face, the shock turning rapidly into anger. He quickly tried to explain, stumbling over his words. He confessed that he knew about the potential for permanence, maybe even the likelihood, before he even left. He admitted he hadn't told me the full story, hadn't mentioned the promotion was essentially his if he did well in the initial phase. Why? Because he knew how strongly I felt about long-distance relationships. He knew I would have likely ended things back then if I knew the truth. His justification? He didn't want to lose me. He thought that if I just experienced long distance with him, saw how much effort he was willing to put in, how good he could make it, that I would change my mind. He thought 3 months of his perfect LDR boyfriend act would convince me to commit to an indefinite cross-country relationship. He genuinely seemed to believe this was some grand romantic gesture, proof of how much he cared. He thought he was being clever, maybe even noble in his own twisted way, fighting for the relationship by lying. By completely disregarding my explicitly stated boundaries and feelings. He tried to trap me. That's what it felt like. He gambled with my time, my emotions, my trust, hoping I'd get so invested, so used to the LDR routine he curated, that I'd just stay. He essentially stole 3 months of my life under false pretenses, letting me invest emotionally in a future he knew was based on a lie. When I tried to explain why I was so furious, why this felt like such a profound betrayal, he just didn't get it. "But aren't you happy for my promotion?" he asked, genuinely perplexed. "And haven't these last 3 months been good? I showed you we could make it work." He focused on the effort he put in, the success of his plan in keeping us connected during the lie, completely missing the point that the entire foundation was rotten. It wasn't about whether he was a good LDR boyfriend for 3 months, it was about the deception, the manipulation, the utter lack of respect for my agency and my clearly stated deal breakers. He took away my ability to make an informed choice about my own relationship, about my own life. He framed it as him wanting me so badly he was willing to bend the truth, but all I saw was selfishness. He prioritized keeping me over respecting me. The fact that he couldn't grasp the severity of his deception, why I felt violated and manipulated, was almost worse than the lie itself. It showed a fundamental disconnect in how we viewed trust and honesty. And suddenly, little things started clicking into place, memories resurfacing with a disturbing new clarity. During his second surprise visit, about 2 months ago, I remember him being weirdly protective of his work phone. He usually left it lying around, but that weekend, it was always in his pocket or face down. At the time, I chalked it up to work stress. Now, I wonder what messages or emails he was hiding. And there was that one late-night video call where he seemed really excited, talking about a major breakthrough at work, but he got vague when I asked for details, saying it was company-sensitive stuff. Looking back, that was probably around the time the permanent offer was solidified. He wasn't just misleading me, he was actively covering his tracks. Then came the real kicker. My best friend, Chloe, who had met Lawrence a few times, called me after I tearfully told her what happened. After offering support, she hesitated, then said something that made my blood run cold. "Look, maybe I shouldn't say this, but months ago, way back when you guys were just getting serious, maybe only a month or 2 in, Lawrence mentioned something to my boyfriend, Mark. Mark said Lawrence was talking about applying for a big permanent relocation role with his company, something about really wanting to get out of the city and lead a major project. Chloe hadn't thought much of it then, assuming he'd tell me if it became serious, or maybe that he'd decided against it. But hearing it now? It meant this wasn't just a lie told 3 months ago when the temporary assignment came up. This was premeditated. He might have been planning this, or at least seriously considering this permanent move, even before our 4-month mark, potentially viewing our budding relationship through the lens of this future relocation from very early on. Did he see me as someone he could eventually convince to uproot her life or accept an LDR from the beginning? The thought was nauseating. It recontextualized everything, every sweet gesture, every reassurance. Was it all part of a long game? Now, he's supposed to arrive this weekend. The weekend I had meticulously planned as his triumphant homecoming celebration. The non-refundable hotel booking by the beach, the fancy dinner reservations, it all feels like a sick joke now. His return isn't a return at all. It's just another visit, another temporary fix in what he unilaterally decided is now our permanent long-distance reality. My excitement has curdled into this potent mixture of anger, hurt, and dread. How am I supposed to look him in the eye? How can I pretend everything is okay, even for a minute? Do I cancel everything? Do I confront him the second he walks through the door? Or do I go through the motions of the weekend, trying to understand the depths of this deception before I completely lose it? Part of me wants to scream, to rage, to demand answers I know he probably won't give, or at least not answers that will satisfy the chasm of trust he's blasted open between us. Another part of me feels numb, exhausted by the emotional whiplash. He keeps texting me, excited about the weekend, talking about how much he misses me, completely oblivious or maybe willfully ignorant to the hurricane raging inside me. He even texted yesterday, "Can't wait to celebrate being back with you." The wink emoji felt like a slap in the face. Celebrate what? His successful manipulation? His promotion built on a foundation of lies? I haven't told him that I know about the conversation he had with Mark months ago. I haven't revealed that I suspect this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision or a recent development, but potentially a long-conceived plan. I feel like I need to see his face when I confront him with all of it, not just the initial lie about the 3 months, but the potential timeline stretching back much further. I need to see if there's any remorse, any understanding, or just more justification and attempts to spin the narrative. The hours are ticking down until his flight lands. My apartment feels like a pressure cooker. I keep pacing, replaying conversations in my head, drafting angry speeches I'll probably never deliver exactly as planned. I canceled the fancy restaurant, there's no way I could sit through a celebratory dinner. The hotel, though? It's non-refundable. A cruel irony. Maybe a neutral territory, away from our shared memories in my apartment, is actually better for the inevitable confrontation. Or maybe it's the worst idea ever, trapping us together for a weekend designed for romance, now destined for conflict. I packed an overnight bag, feeling detached, like I was watching myself prepare for someone else's dramatic weekend. What am I even hoping for? An apology doesn't feel like enough. Trust, once shattered like this, can it ever truly be pieced back together? Especially when he still doesn't seem to grasp the fundamental wrongness of his actions? Even if he apologizes profusely now, how could I ever believe anything he says again? Every promise, every plan, would be tainted by the knowledge that he's capable of such calculated deception when it suits his desires. I keep thinking about those 3 months. He argues they were good, proving we can do distance. But he's missing the point. They were bearable only because I believed they were finite. I wasn't auditioning for a permanent LDR, I was enduring a temporary inconvenience for someone I was growing to love, based on his explicit promise. He didn't prove we could work long distance, he proved he could trick me into thinking we could, under false pretenses. He stole my right to choose, my right to uphold my own boundaries. As I was packing, lost in these thoughts, my phone buzzed. It was an email notification. Normally I'd ignore it, but the sender caught my eye. It was the HR department from Lawrence's company. That was strange. Why would they email me? My heart started pounding. I opened it cautiously. It wasn't addressed to me directly, but I was CC'd. The main recipient was Lawrence. Subject: Partner Relocation Assistance Inquiry, Confidential. My blood ran cold again. I read the email chain. It started weeks ago, before the 3-month mark was even up. It was Lawrence, inquiring about the company's policy on relocation assistance not just for himself, but for a domestic partner. He had specifically asked about coverage for moving expenses, help with finding accommodations suitable for two people, and even resources for partner job searching assistance in the new city. He was actively researching how to move me across the country with him, weeks before he even told me the job was permanent. He wasn't just hoping I'd agree to long distance, he was already planning the next stage, assuming my compliance, making logistical arrangements for my life without even having the basic decency to tell me the truth about his own situation first. The entitlement, the arrogance, it took my breath away. He wasn't just trying to trap me in an LDR, he was planning to uproot my entire life based on his assumption that I would eventually cave or be persuaded. Seeing it there in black and white, the calculated steps he was taking behind my back, it solidified everything. This wasn't a mistake or a misguided romantic gesture. This was a deliberate, sustained campaign of manipulation. There was no more room for doubt, no more wondering if I was overreacting. He didn't just lie about the timeline, he lied about the very nature of his intentions and his respect for my autonomy. He saw me not as a partner to make decisions with, but as a piece to be moved on his personal chessboard. The anger I felt before now feels like a cold, hard certainty. The weekend ahead is no longer about confrontation and seeking understanding. It's about closing a chapter. It's about standing up for the trust he shattered and the boundaries he trampled. He thinks he's coming back for another visit, maybe hoping for a difficult conversation that ends with forgiveness and acceptance of his new reality. He has no idea he's flying straight into the consequences of his actions. I'm still going to the beach hotel. Not for romance, not even for a fight in the traditional sense. I'm going because I need to tell him, face to face, that what he did is unforgivable, that he didn't just break the terms of our agreement, he broke us. He needs to understand the depth of his betrayal, not so we can fix it, but so he knows exactly what he lost. He thought he was playing a game to keep me, but he fundamentally misunderstood the rules of trust and respect. He didn't just risk the relationship, he destroyed it. I don't know what his reaction will be, maybe more justifications, maybe anger, maybe even tears. But honestly, it doesn't matter anymore. My decision is made. He thought he could manipulate me into the future he wanted, but he only guaranteed himself a future without me in it. Wish me luck, I guess. Or maybe just wish me strength. This is going to be one incredibly difficult weekend, but I know what I have to do.